Dear friends, welcome to another episode from GeoWar News. In today's report, we dive deep into the tariff war launched during President Donald Trump's administration and how it has been reshaping the production and costs of military equipment across the United States. The operational strength of the U.S. Armed Forces depends heavily on a complex global network of suppliers. Missiles sourced from Norway. Advanced aerospace technologies from France and Italy integrated into fighter jets. Missile launchers developed in Sweden for ground forces. Even critical armored vehicles like the Stryker, partially assembled in Canada. The list is extensive and highlights how interconnected the American defense industry has become with the international market. Despite the unmatched technological prowess of American defense companies, it is incredibly rare to find a U.S. military system today that is built without any foreign components. However, this vast and intricate global supply chain came under serious pressure when the Trump administration initiated measures to reduce dependency on foreign imports, applying high tariffs on nearly all products manufactured outside the United States. These tariffs sparked major concerns among experts, defense contractors, and members of Congress. There were growing warnings that rising production costs could not only strain Pentagon budgets, but also decrease foreign sales and undermine America's reputation as a reliable strategic partner. Senator Jeanne Shaheen from New Hampshire, for instance, warned the Secretary of Defense that these tariffs would immediately increase military supply chain costs and, over the long term, limit the Pentagon's purchasing power, directly impacting troop readiness and operational efficiency. Currently, a 25% tariff applies to imported steel and aluminum, critical materials for building tanks, ships, and aircraft. Additionally, a general 10% tariff is levied on most trade partners, while tariffs against China reached an astounding 145%. Although measures against roughly 60 countries were temporarily paused, the risk remained, with Trump warning that tariffs would be reinstated after a 90-day grace period if no favorable trade deals were negotiated. The Department of Defense maintains agreements with 28 nations allowing exceptions to Buy American policies, but the long-term future of these collaborations remains uncertain. Analysts predict that cost increases are inevitable, considering the widespread use of foreign materials in the assembly of American weapons systems. The aerospace sector is particularly vulnerable. Although Trump promised that military-use materials would be exempt, industries remain nervous. Many components destined for fighter jets and military drones are dual-use technologies also employed in civilian sectors, creating fear of unintended consequences if tariffs spill over. Elevated costs could threaten the global competitiveness of American aerospace exports, precisely when maintaining an active industrial base is crucial during periods of reduced domestic defense spending. While U.S. imports account for just 3.1% of global arms imports between 2020 and 2024, America still dominates 43% of the world's arms exports. Yet, with increasing production costs due to tariffs, this dominance is under threat. Nations and blocs are already moving to lessen their dependency on American weapons. The European Union launched the Buy European Defence Initiative, involving up to €800 billion in funding exclusively earmarked for European-built defence systems. This plan, already approved by the European Parliament, will severely limit future U.S. arms sales to Europe while strengthening the European defence industry. In the Asia-Pacific region, warnings are also growing. The Philippine ambassador to Washington recently stated that his country might be unable to afford the acquisition of nearly $6 billion worth of F-16 fighter jets, citing cost inflation caused by tariffs. Other nations are reassessing the long-term reliability of the United States as a strategic arms supplier. Even if tariffs stay at the 10% baseline, analysts estimate billions of dollars would be added to defense procurement contracts. Such hikes could push potential buyers to explore alternative suppliers, favoring cheaper European or even emerging Asian defense industries. In Australia, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese sharply criticized the tariffs as unfriendly, warning that they could jeopardize the AUKUS nuclear submarine deal, a program estimated to cost over $240 billion across 25 years. Any cost increase would strain Australia's already stretched defense budget, putting the entire program at risk. Canada, another critical defense partner, expressed similar discontent. Premier Mark Carney stated that the once deep economic and security integration between Canada and the U.S. is effectively over. Canada remains vital, manufacturing key components for F-35 fighter jets and Stryker armored vehicles, both essential to U.S. ground and air combat operations. Meanwhile, countermeasures are already underway. The European Union prepared €21 billion in retaliatory tariffs, currently suspended pending trade negotiations. China, the most targeted country, retaliated by slapping 125% tariffs on U.S. goods and by restricting the export of rare earth minerals, elements critical for defense industries. This is particularly alarming, considering a single F-35 Lightning II fighter jet requires nearly half a ton of rare earth elements, and a Virginia-class submarine consumes over 4 tons. China controls around 90% of the global rare earth supply chain, meaning that the United States remains highly vulnerable to supply disruptions. As a result, the already high price of the F-35 is expected to rise even further, putting at risk several countries' plans to acquire new squadrons of this fifth-generation stealth fighter. Despite the tensions, there are signals that the trade war might ease. Trump recently announced plans to lower the 145% tariff on Chinese goods, hinting at potential thawing in the economic standoff. In summary, the trade war initiated by the Trump administration is profoundly reshaping the American defense industry landscape. Although this conflict is primarily fought in the economic arena, its consequences could have deep and lasting impacts on U.S. national security, global alliances, and the balance of power around the world. Stay tuned to GeoWar News for more in-depth coverage on military technology, global conflicts, and the future of defense industries. Thank you for watching.